Hey, what's going on, everybody? How are you today? I'm your host, Ryan Knup here. You're watching the Noob Sports Show, episode 135. We are up to 135 episodes of this awesome show. Really appreciate all the support you guys give us each and every time we bring you a show. As you know, we love to dive in and we love to just hear from industry leaders. We love to hear from sports business people, executives in this awesome space that we call sports business. And today we have two guests with us. We have the founders of the FFPC, Dave Gershik and Alex Kaganovsky. Thank you guys for joining me. How are you guys today?
Great.
Welcome to the show. Really appreciate it. Taking a few minutes and just chatting. We just want to hear more about FFPC. But first, how are you guys hanging in there? You guys doing well? Staying safe? Enjoying? Did you enjoy your summer? I know we're about to the end of the summer, but all good. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, it's been great. The weather's I'm in Wisconsin, so the weather's actually good here this time of year, and we're just getting busier and busier with fantasy football right now. So we're excited.
It's that time of year, man. The fantasy football. The next 2-3 weeks is fantasy football time. I'm excited. I got my oldest son who does my. I've kind of turned him into my fantasy football GM as time has went on. I'm like just starting the team, and he does all the dirty work. So that's been fun. But Alex, how about you? You doing well?
Yeah, doing well. I'm in New York City, and it's been a little hot here, but staying indoors and working. Get ready.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, let's dive right in. First, I want to hear, it's not every day that I get two guests on here, so we're going to kind of just keep going back and forth, but I want to hear a little bit about you guys specifically, a little more about your path to get to where you are today with the FFPC, but what got you going in fantasy football and sports in general? Alex, let's start with you. What got you going in this industry?
The industry, I got in just because I love fantasy football, and that was one of my primary hobbies, and eventually led me to meeting Dave, and it led me to the business, to starting the FFPC. But I was as far away from this particular industry as I possibly could be. I was in the medical industry immediately before launching the FFPC, and many other industries prior to that. So this was absolutely brand new to me.
That's cool. Dave, how about your story? What got you to where you are today?
Business-wise, I was originally in retail. Coming out of college, I worked at a sunglass hut and then started some watch kiosks. And I'm actually still in the watch business, more e-com at this point. But fantasy football is not an area of really of interest, from a business perspective. I just wanted to play. I think I drafted Terrell Davis was my first pick in 1999, and he promptly tore his ACL. Took Jake Plummer in the second round. That was another terrible pick. But yeah, and I got better. Alex and I didn't know each other, but we went to the World Championship of Fantasy Football in 2002, which was the first high stakes event. Became friends, and 6 years later, we started this business. And it's interesting. It's been a slow growth process. But it's almost like a boulder rolling downhill a little bit now. It's really growing, and as regulation has come on, it's really even gotten busier and busier for us. So it's been a fun ride. It's awesome.
That's really fascinating. Both of you have similar stories in that you're, in other industries, and it's not like, oh, I knew sports business was my thing from the very beginning. I mean, that's not your story. That's really cool. That's cool that you guys kind of found your way here, and now that you're kind of in it, you're loving it, and making some noise in the fantasy football space. So let's jump into FFPC. I mean, tell us, at a high level, or at a deep level, give us just more background about FFPC, what it is, and the audience you're serving.
You want me to take that, Alex? We originally, when we started back in 2008, we were a high stakes fantasy football company. So we really thought, we play at these higher levels of, $500 to $1,000, $1,500 or more for one entry fee for one team. And I think our lowest stakes satellite league was $150. So we catered to this more affluent type person. But as time went on, we realized we were really missing kind of the mass market. And so since then, we've added a lot of leagues at lower and lower entry fees, $77, $35. And this year we added $5 leagues just to get your feet wet. If you want to come in and play with us, it's great. And so now we have all sorts of stuff. There's $5 leagues. There's still $10,000 entry leagues. We have Dynasty, which is really popular. And then we still have our high-end like main event. We have our mid-stakes contest, the Football Guys Players Championship. So we really feel like we are covering the whole gamut of fantasy football at this point.
That's really cool. Alex, anything to add there? Anything Dave missed out on from just a high-level FFPC?
No, I think, we really didn't have much of a business plan. Now looking back in 2008, we just said, hey, we should just launch this high-stakes fantasy football company. And then as the years went on, we're like, wait a minute, we're doing this wrong and we're doing that wrong. So it took us a while to get it right, but I think we're in a pretty good place right now.
So tell me, how many people in a season, in a typical season, how many people will find themselves playing, in FFPC events?
Well, just the two main contests, which would be the FFPC main event, is going to have close to 3,000 entries. Now, keep in mind, this is the higher stake entry. This is about $1,900 to enter. So this would be, if you compare it to the World Series of Poker, this would be the main event, right? And then we have other events like the Football Guys Players Championship, which is $350 to enter. That contest will have 13,000 entries.
Wow.
Then we have all kinds of, like Dave mentioned, individual leagues and other smaller contests that start at $5 and go all the way up. So there's literally thousands more leagues there. So there's quite a bit of people playing. I mean, a lot of them play multiple events. A lot of them will find their interest in one particular event, but we have quite a bit of season-long hobbyists that are on our platform right now.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to ask. So explain the difference, right? Because I think a traditional fantasy football player, I got my buddies, we jump on Yahoo, we jump on ESPN, we jump somewhere and we start a league, right? What's the benefit of can we get a whole group of people and start a league through you guys, or is it a different concept? Explain a little bit, how that works.
Well, sure. The difference really here is that if you are a person that it's you and a few friends or just you don't need to have 11 buddies or 9 buddies if you're doing a 10-team league. You can come in just by yourself and play. And on top of that, you can play at any point in time. Like if you want to play a league this afternoon, there's a league going off. If you want to play tonight, great. This weekend, great. I'm sure you've done this where you're trying to coordinate with your 11 friends. Oh, hey, when can we do this? And it's generally a nightmare. You're like, oh my God, this guy has off, or this guy can't make it. This guy's phoning it in. So it's a lot more convenient. You can just get on your computer, you go into the draft room, you can draft online. It's a lot easier. It's just, and then on top of it, you don't have to worry about the guy that absconds with the money because you left it with the shady uncle. And so we take care of it. All the prizes are protected. Everyone gets paid out at the end of the year, so it works out really well.
I love how, on the main screen of your website and kind of one of the things you say, the home of season-long fantasy football. Now, I want to dive into daily fantasy football here real quick and really ask, the main question I want to ask is, has DFS helped or hurt you guys over the years? Has that concept of DFS been an advocate for you guys, or is it like a deterrent for what you guys are doing?
I think now that we're probably a good 10 plus years of DFS track record, I think it's safe to say that DFS has probably helped in the overall exposure to fantasy football to the masses. And I think that not only exposure, but also the idea of playing fantasy football for pay-to-play format with large prizes has also become more of a mainstream, like an acceptable social game. Where if you go back to when we started in 2008, when we told people kind of, come play fantasy football, a lot of people didn't even play fantasy football for money back then. People still played for trophies or pride or whatever. Now nobody plays for trophy. Nobody plays for pride. So, I shouldn't say that. They play for pride, but certainly not solely for pride and not solely for trophies. And I think that's, if I was to give a really big compliment to DFS, that would probably be it.
Very good answer. Very good answer. All right, so let's dive into the main event. So the main event's coming in September. It's going to be in Las Vegas, Nevada. It looks like an awesome time. Give us a little bit about this main event that you guys have scheduled coming up here in September.
Yeah, it is an online option as well. So you can, if you can't make it to Las Vegas, you are able to draft online. We actually have online main events starting this Friday. So they're
cool.
starting soon. So it runs from that time all the way up through September 10th, I believe. But yeah, the live event's great. It's at Planet Hollywood. We have the opening game kickoff parties. There's a game on Thursday, and it's actually kind of interesting. The stats that are accrued during that game actually can be used for your starting lineup in the draft. Whether you drafted before that game or after that game, you get the option of starting or benching on either of those players. So it gets really interesting. I remember one year Peyton Manning threw for, I think, 7 touchdowns, and Peyton Manning became a first-round pick in a lot of these drafts. So it gets really interesting. The Thursday game is very impactful.
Yep. Yeah, that's going to be an amazing time. And yeah, I specifically remember that game when he threw for all those touchdowns. But yeah, I guess that would give you a week 1 win if you take him at the first round, right? I mean, that's an auto win.
Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, anything to add on that, Alex?
Yeah, I was going to say that adds a wrinkle. So on Thursday, we have probably around 400 people that will start coming down to our events and watch the game in a giant ballroom with a giant screen TV. And all the drafts are starting. Most of the drafts are starting on Friday, the live drafts. And again, it's, you're in a ballroom with hundreds and hundreds of diehards just like you, and all they want to talk about, all they want to hear is fantasy football. It's really amazing. So you're around kind of your people. You don't have to, everywhere you turn, it's someone who you could relate to. So, that runs through Sunday, and then Sunday, as one of our my old friends and one of our FFPC players would say, Sunday is when we open our presents. It's Christmas time, and that's when we watch the games and see what it is that all our teams are going to be doing actually on the field. So it's an amazing weekend. So the FFPC players that do make it out to Las Vegas and join us end up coming back for a lifetime.
That's amazing. That sounds like a blast. You can't beat that, right? Las Vegas football, fantasy football, a bunch of friends, buddies, having a good time. That sounds amazing. So before I do have some other questions, more business-wise, but before I do, how do people get started playing or drafting in an FFPC event? I know it's myffpc.com, correct? Is that where you want to send them? Is that where they're going to go join into to some of these drafts?
Yeah, you can just open an account. It's free. And then there's a menu, a draft lobby of various leagues and things to join. Again, you can start at a $5 league. There's $5 sit and go, so those go off every hour or two, actually, if you just want to hop into a league and draft 18 rounds. That only takes about 40 minutes, actually, to just knock one of those out. But yeah, you can take a look at all the various options, whether it's the main event or the football guys, or like the lower end, $5 and $35 leagues, just to check them out. A lot of people, what's really become popular is this best ball format. We've been doing it for a long time, but a lot of times people don't want to manage their teams. Like you said, you delegate management of your team, kicking that can down the road for you. If you don't want to do that, you just do a best ball team, and you can draft 28 rounds or even 18 rounds for a slim format with no kickers, no defenses, and you're done. You just watch and you optimize the scoring every week, and that's how the team does.
That's really cool. And I see all sorts of formats out here. We're showing the website as we speak here, but it looks like you can register out here, find all sorts of different formats, all sorts of different prize levels and entry levels and things. So really, truly, as you guys said earlier, not just this high stakes mentality. It's really, truly for anyone who wants to be involved in fantasy football and be a part of something awesome. So this is really cool, guys. Congrats on all the success. Now, one thing I always like to ask, and this is more business-wise, more entrepreneurial thinking, is, what's one of the biggest challenges you guys have had as you went through this, starting this from scratch? I know you guys started this from nothing to get from now. What's one of the business challenges that you guys have run into that maybe you want to share, how you got through it, or just one of the biggest challenges you guys have had as you launched FFPC?
Well, I think for us, Dave knows exactly what I'm going to say, and it still is. It's always tech. Tech is the biggest challenge because neither Dave or I are developers. We over the years, we learned a little HTML, but that's pretty much it. So when we launched the FFPC, we had to outsource all of development. As little as it was back then, we didn't really know how much more we would need. Again, over the years, we just learned so much. I think that's probably less of an issue for a lot of the startups these days, because a lot of the startups, I think, take that into serious consideration, because it is, 2021. But back in our days, we did not. So, if you're well financed and you have a good tech team on your team, then I think you'll be okay. But for us, that was a major problem, and thankfully, I think we conquered it over the years. But we're still working on it.
Tech's one of those things that's just ever changing, right? It's always changing, and it's such a big part of what we do. But it's very tough to keep up with unless you have the right team. So that's a great answer, Dave. Anything to add, or any other challenges you might have thought of?
Yeah, I think once the DFS explosion happened, the regulation really came to the forefront, and I think everyone in our industry, with the exception of FanDuel and DraftKings, they were on it. But I think the rest of us were really kind of behind the times. When we originally started our contest, we put all of our funds in an attorney escrow account, so we were protecting our funds from the get-go, and so that's always been important to us. But with all the regulations that came around, it's just something we had to adjust to. We have a compliance officer, so we're licensed in all these various states. So that's still kind of a challenge. I mean, there's some states like Delaware, for example, where we're not licensed, and they have a $50,000 fee, and it's just there's not enough people in Delaware to justify it. So unfortunately, we can't be in every single state. But so regulation is always it's always something to work on. So.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I mean, and that's one of those other, just like tech, it's ever changing and ever growing, and always something that you have to keep on your mind. And if you don't have the right people that understand that stuff, it's very difficult. So great answers there. Hey, one more question before we get off here. I know sounds like Alex is a busy guy. He's got some phone calls coming in.
I can't figure out how to mute my ringer. Sorry about that.
It's all good. Hey, we're on the fly here. It's
I'm
all
always
good.
picking it up. I don't know how to mute it.
Why isn't Alex picking up? No, I get it. So one last question. What's the future look like for FFPC? I mean, are you guys still innovating? Are you guys still coming up with new things, or are you at your pinnacle? I mean, is this it? You're just now looking to grow all your contests, grow the main event, things of that nature, or are there next level things that you guys are looking to add, and maybe somebody listening or the audience listening could help with?
I think from in a season-long kind of game format, I think we're in a really good place. I think the goal is to grow the format and to grow the prize pools. That's a big deal. People always want to play in a big the big contest. So we want to have all our major contests go to $1 million grand prizes eventually, and that could happen sooner rather than later. So we'll be pretty excited about that. And then expanding into one thing we are not doing yet, which a lot of competitors and a lot of the bigger guys like DraftKings and FanDuel are obviously doing, are the daily kind of weekly games, and we're not really doing in that space just yet. We're not in the gaming space at all. So obviously the industry is growing, and we're not really in a big rush to get to those places, but we'll figure out what's right for us and for our customers.
Very cool. Very cool. Any last words, Dave? Anything I missed that we maybe we want to talk about here? I always miss something. So what else did you want to communicate, or what else can we talk about here before we let you go?
Oh man, you've done such a great job. It's I don't know if I have a whole lot actually. I would say that just again to kind of bring up the dynasty format, I think that's something that people it's such a 5 to 10 years ago, we just started dynasty leagues in 2010, and it has just become this massive, huge format. And on top of that, the other format that's really been popular is Superflex. We're starting a second quarterback. That's really grown tremendously. We introduced that a few years ago, and people love playing Superflex format as well. So those two things are really interesting to us. They're also areas of growth for us for sure.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, guys, I really appreciate your time. I'll let you go, get back to work here. If anybody wanted to connect with you guys personally, is there emails? Is there a place that's best to get a hold of you guys, or is it just simply the company contact page? What's the best way of getting a hold of you guys?
For me, it's just Dave at myffpc.com or David Gerzak on Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Alex at myffpc.com. So just I answer my emails pretty quickly. So anyone
Perfect. And we'll get all of that added into the show notes of this show. So we'll make sure so you don't have to scramble and write things down as you're listening here, everyone. But we'll get it in the show notes. But Dave, Alex, really appreciate your time. Really wish you the best of luck this season with the FFPC. And I'm excited to see how this main event goes. And I'm going to make sure that's a bucket list thing for me to start to try to get out to that main event, if not this year, but next year.
Well, thanks so much for having us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Audience, really appreciate you tuning in. That was Dave Gerchak, Alex Kaganovsky of the FFPC. Great guys in the industry doing some great things in fantasy football. Really thank you guys for your time. And if you ever need anything, you know how to get a hold of me, Ryan Newpel, on LinkedIn, noobsports.com, part of the Sports 2.0 network. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.